Then we have TITUS, which is the one that just hit here by 106 million. I mean, this is literally one hit, one key. It's like Tranda in her kind of setups. Finally, we can show you and test a bit and talk a bit more in depth about TITUS BLACKPLUME, which is gonna be the next fusion, the fusion for the month of July. It's a really interesting champion. Probably what you thought he was gonna do, he's gonna do it, obviously. But also, it's a champion that is gonna be quite controversial. He's pretty good. I mean, it's a Void Legendary champion. Obviously, it's gonna be good, or theoretically it's gonna be good. But we need to take a couple of things into consideration. Let's have a look at it. Hi, Senda here, and welcome to another raid video. In this case, we're in the test server, and since I have quite a lot of things to show you and we have to go through a lot of different things, let's jump right into it. The first of all is, let's do a quick recap on the champion's skill. I know you probably seen it, or you probably have an idea, you remember quite a bit, but there's a couple of things that I want to point out that after testing it, I don't think he's as good and as amazing as we might think. However, he's able to do what we all think he can do. Let's start right on. In terms of stats, HP is not bad, defense is not bad. I mean, it's a tank, it's a defense-based champion. His role is going to be, in a sense, sustain the team, give buffs and so on. However, he's also going to be able to do incredible amounts of damage, as you all might expect. But let's go, before jumping into that, let's go into the kit quickly. On the A1, we place block active skills during 2 turns. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under a buff of under a shield buff. And here I want you to remember this, to put here like a asterisk, put it here a side note, because we're going to talk about this in a second. And then whenever an ally counterattacks, teams up with allies to attack, or instantly activates his skill, also has a 40% chance to place these block active skills. He is able to apply these block active skills, not the champion counterattacking. For example, and since we have her in the same faction, we have Ronda, which passively has a 15% chance to join the attack, or to join an attack whenever an ally attacks an enemy. So every time Ronda procs this and goes to attack, TITUS is also gonna join them and also gonna attack with the A1, in this case placing a block active skills. And if he's under a shield, he is gonna be, or this debuff is gonna be irresistible, which means it doesn't need accuracy. Let's jump on the A2. This is probably the highlight of his kit, the star skill. And like I said, we've been asking Plarium about this. They said it's fine. They said they're not gonna nerf it, at least for now. But let's quickly recap what this exactly does, because it says attacks one enemy. This attack is always critical if this champion is under a shield. Again, like before, remember the side note that we put, we'll cover this in a second. And also, this is the most important part, this attack also gains a damage boost equal to the value of the shield, which means the bigger the shield, the bigger the damage. And it's not cap, it doesn't have a limit. It's not like Corpulent Cadaver that was limited because it was a rare champion and it was overperforming and it was hitting by a lot of damage. I think the intention here in this champion specifically is that since he's a Void champion, so a champion quite hard technically to get, he is intended to be in setups able to put unlimited shield, like a giant infinite shield, and in that case hit by shits amounts of damage, because it's a Void Legendary, not a simple rare champion. And also removes all the debuffs from the allies that target is killed. This will be on waves and so on, but it's not his main purpose, I would say. If the target survives, we place a provoke, which is also pretty nice. At the end of the day, it's a tank, and this effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under a shield buff. Again, talking about the shield buff, remember the side note. And here on his A3, places an ally protection, an increased attack, an increased speed, and also fills the allies, the ally that's putting all these buffs, 40%. And then this is another caveat, is something that at the beginning it sounded really powerful, but then in reality is not that powerful, because it says that instantly activates this skill at the end of an ally's turn if that ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100%. What happens with this? What's my problem with this? The problem with this is that in PvE, okay, there's quite a lot of enemies, they're able to apply block buffs, they're able to apply to remove our own buffs, but on PvE, and by PvE let's understand like faction wars, any dungeon, Curse City, Doom Tower, all these kind of places, it's quite rare that we don't have buffs on the allies, especially because there's a lot of champions that place a lot of buffs, and there's also a lot of champions, good champions, that are using the 9-piece protection set, which gives us irremovable, like protected buffs, which means the enemies cannot strip them from us. So this is going to be pretty rare because first we need our allies to be without buffs, which is already rare, and on top of that they need to be, their HP has to be lower than 100%, which again is not common. It can happen, of course, it's possible that this happens, but the chances of this happening on PvE are slim, because normally we have a lot more speed than the enemies, normally we have a lot more HP, a lot more damage, and normally we're always protected with different buffs, so it's quite rare, and we can only take the benefit of this skill mainly on the first part. The second part is good to have it, but it's gonna proc very rarely. Finally, we have a passive that says each time an enemy hits an ally, the ally's next attack will deal 10% more damage for each hit they take, and it stacks up to 100%, and the damage increase resets. So now it's time to get that side note that I mentioned in the beginning, and is that on the A1 he needs to have a shield. On A2, he needs to have a shield. On A3, I mean, doesn't need to, doesn't do anything extra in terms of shield, but these two skills they need the champion to have a shield. However, he's not able to provide the shield. He doesn't place a shield on himself, which makes him entirely dependent of being paired with another champion or himself using a shield set or some sort of set that is able to give him a shield. And that's what makes me think that he is what they nerfed in Corpulent Cadaver on purpose. I mean, he's a champion that needs to go with other champions able to play shield, and obviously the biggest shield possible, and the bigger the shield the better. Same as Corpulent Cadaver. Also has a passive that the more hits we take and the longer the battle it gets and the more heads or enemies hitting us, before we take a turn, we deal even more and more damage, which makes him especially suitable for clan bosses and long battles, where we can extend the shield over and over and over and over, and then every time we're hitting for more damage and increasing the shield even further. And we've asked specifically Plarium, like, look Plarium, read this skill, it's telling us that it's gonna hit harder the bigger the shields. We know there's different setups that increase the shield into oblivion, and they're able to deal a lot of damage. You know this, and you still release a champion, and Plarium's literal words were, we're not planning to patch him on the next patch. I mean, we're not planning to nerf him on the next patch, and this is working as intended. I know, we've heard that before, we've seen nerfs to this mechanic, but considering he's a Void legendary champion, and that currently the meta for Hydra is Trunda, I think this is an attempt for Plarium to try to give champions, or to try to give player this champion in order to assemble that kind of setup with shields for this kind of battles. Going into his gear, mine is not gear the best, and I know. The thing is, because he needs certain things, is quite rare and quite complicated to gear him. So I've just taken a hybrid of a lot of different things. In terms of stats, you can notice something quite rare, and is having a lot of crit damage with not enough crit rate. And this is because of his A2. Since he's gonna be under a shield, his hit is always gonna be critical, which means we don't need to care about the crit rate, we need to just increase by a lot the crit damage. And I can probably increase the crit damage a bit more because I might have resources in some of the test server, so I might be able to send these. We need crit damage, I mean, we're gonna send it to level 6, and then since this is not the stat I want crit damage, we're gonna be able to increase it a little bit more. And here I have 3000 because thank God this is the test server, otherwise this would be impossible. But you can see here that already 3 attempts and it's not coming crit damage, which is what I want. 4th attempt and 5th attempt and crit damage finally. So we can increase it even a bit more. To compensate, in a sense, the shield aspect of his set, I gave him these 2 pieces of the blood shield. We have the ring and we have the banner, and both of them gives a 5%, so 5 and 5 equals 10% of his damage as a shield. It's not going to be massive, it's not going to be too good, but at least we're going to have a shield, and he's not going to depend entirely on other champions. I could have also easily put him on a shield set, is another good option, like shield set over here, or a bolster set is also a pretty good option, which is again a protected shield. But after these 3 turns expire, what do? We still need another kind of champion able to increase the duration of these shields if we want to maximize the amount of damage from this skill. And the rest of the kit, I opted for protection, which we can get a chance of protected buff. Another option could have been 9-star protection set, so every time we place a protected buff and he places 3, plus in this case maybe the shield, it increases the damage of the champion that he's placing the shield, but also it's a bit strange because at the same time he is the one going to be dealing a lot of damage. So like I said, it doesn't require accuracy in terms of HP and defense. This is what he scales off, the HP and defense here, so we can put some HP, we can put some defense, we can put some speed, and like I said, mention mainly crit damage. And in terms of masteries, again, there's a lot of different routes. In this case, I went for maybe an odd one, which is Flawless Execution. There's other options, I'm sure, for example, Helm Smasher also is gonna work because we're also ignoring defense. Here, War Master, it can also work because we're going to be hitting a lot of bosses, and these bosses, we're going to be hitting them extra damage for max HP. And then here is basically increasing HP, increases the value of the shield that is gonna, the Blood Shield set is going to be giving him. And like I said, I'm going to show him just without any Ascension stars, just as the champion is. Obviously, with more Ascension, he's going to be hitting harder and harder and harder, and for that I'm going to show you 2 things. I'm going to show you first on the clan boss, which you can probably already see here in the test server, other content creators, different setups featuring, in this case, as we can see, this guy, Titus here, then we can see Wixwell because he's going to be the one working with this kind of setups, and Brockney because he's also going to be increasing the size of the shield. I tried 2 keys yesterday, you can see here the 2 keys, again with the champion not fully ascended, and the only thing I'm caring about here is extending the duration of the buffs, extending the duration of the shield, and of course here Wixwell is going to be the #1 champion that we're going to be needing. But as you can see, all the teams here from all the other content creators that have been trying Titus is always together with Wixwell because he's the champion to increase the duration of shields. Yes, you can go like here, like Victor Test that he tried with double Yumeko, but as you can see, it doesn't work as good. It's mainly extending with Wixwell because he's the best shield extender. And if we just try again Ultra Nightmare, is full auto this team. I'm not gonna go too much into detail, it's not super optimized, but Wixwell I want to spam his A2, which is the one that increases the size of the shields. Mad Hatter, again, he's able to increase the duration of the buffs with this skill here, which let's start with this. Brockney, again, he's able to increase the size of the shields depending on his damage. Chris, he places the shields straight away. I think we can put to increase this shield over here. And then Titus, I just want him to spam the A2 because he's the one that deals damage. I'm gonna save this team, I'm just gonna press full auto, and we're gonna see that the amount of damage of course depends in a lot of different champions. If I put here like 6-star, Crushing Ren, 572 million, all the damage comes from him, and all the damage comes from this massive shield. I'm gonna show you a bit in more depth. I have it filmed here, it's filmed in Spanish, don't worry. What we're interested here to see is the numbers, but basically you're gonna see what I'm talking about. We place shields, we increase the duration of the shields, we increase the size of the shield into oblivion, and every time Titus is gonna be hitting, hopefully we can see the hit here, there you go, 3.8 million, and this is going to be keep escalating and escalating the bigger the shield, hence making him the damage dealer for the shield setups. In a sense, maybe trying to counter Trundas. Trundas, you need quite specific champions, you need Yumekos or champion that reset skills, of course you need Trunda, you need certain champions to make that setup work, and I think 3.1 million. Like you can see, it keeps increasing slowly. But I think he's coming to be a counter, not a counter, but like an other option, second option. If you don't have Tranda, if you cannot do these kind of setups, you can, if you have Wixwell, because he was a fusion champion, you can make a setup with these unlimited buffs, with this unlimited shield. And 3.3, as you can see, slowly keeps escalating up to a point where the boss just hits us by way too much and we end up dying. But we have a lot of margin, we have a very stupid margin. Also, I'm gonna show you this image. This image is not my team. I mean, it's from a content creator, I think it's called Essie from the German community. He shared it on the content creator test server chat, but you can see the same exact behavior in Hydra. It's gonna be a bit more tricky, it's gonna require a bit more of setting up the setup, but you can see starting from the far left, we have Brogni, again, hitting AoE, the more we hit, the bigger we increase the size of the shield, then Chris for shields as starters and also increasing the duration. Then we have Titus, which is the one that just hit here by 106 million. I mean, this is literally one hit, one key. It's like Tranda in her kind of setups. Again, another very powerful champion to increase the damage of our setups. And as you can see, you're able to do the same thing for Hydra. There's a kind of caveat, there's something also interesting to show you in Hydra, which of course I'm going to show you, and it is that it's going to be one of these setups. The Hydra class has not started, yeah, I don't care. The setup I have is this, but we don't need, I mean, I have here Mikage mainly because she's also another shield or another buff extender. We don't really need her, we have plenty with this 2 plus Wixwell and then Titus just hitting A2, but I don't have a Feral. I mean, I don't have any other champion able to even enhance even more my damage. So I'm going to try with this. I'm not going to go the whole key, but I want to show you two things that are very interesting. The first one is the passive. The passive, I mean, here the setup or the idea is basically the same, is we start accumulating a lot of buffs. Then we need to start extending the duration of these shields because we have two. We have the skill buff, which is the one that is protected, in this case the one where I have the cursor, and the one on the left is the set. So there's a champion in this team, which is Brogni, which has a shield set. So in this case with Brogni we're using, like, accumulating two different types of shields. Let's start hitting this head. I mean, this is the first hit, 59,000, is not much, but you're gonna see that we're gonna start extending the duration of shields, and as long as the enemies, as long as the Hydras don't eat Titus, they can eat whoever. I mean, I think this is Ultra Nightmare. It's gonna be a bit easier if I just show you the behavior on normal, just because you need less stats. Same exact mechanics, same exact idea, but just it's going to be easier for me to show you what exactly I want to show. Like here, for example, you can see that this Hydra head, which is quite annoying, we have to focus on getting rid of her, stole the buffs of the Mad Hatter, and in this case stole the shield. Mad Hatter is not the biggest issue. I mean, he can be like this, he can be without shield. The important that I need the shield on all the time is Titus. He's going to be the main champion that is going to need to have a shield on, and that we need to be hitting hard. If this Hydra, the head of mischiefs, she eats for whatever reason, or she steals the buffs or the shield buff from Titus, that's it. We have to close the try and restart. That's why it's a annoying setup, same as Tranda, that we need to do it manual in order to be able to get like the crazy amounts of damage that you see in certain setups. But what I want to show you here is something pretty easy, something pretty simple, and is that, okay, in this case we have all the Hydra heads, and all these Hydra heads have this Poison Cloud buff. This Poison Cloud is going to make all our hits be weak hits. However, we also have this skill that's telling us that as long as Titus has a shield, his hits are always going to be critical, which means we can target this head or any head with any condition that is going to make the Hydra only receive weak hits and do critical hits. Like you can see, 546,000, and we just started. I mean, we're in boss turn count 6. So the important part here is going to be we need to buff Titus shields as much as possible, make sure that he doesn't get the buff stolen. For example, I'm talking about the head of mischief here, and in the meantime just increasing the size of the shields as much as we can. Let's put another bunch of buffs here, for example on Mikage. one more here, and basically increasing his shields until oblivion. The thing here is that we cannot control what champion is going to be attacked by the Head of Mischief, because the taunt mechanic doesn't work anymore. Before, we were able to, you know, place an Emic, place any other champion with a taunt skill, and this head will go targeting that champion all the time. Now, and sadly, it doesn't work like that, and sometimes this head is going to be trying to obviously eat Titus shields, so we need to be quite wary and quite active in controlling this head, because it's going to be quite annoying if basically the try ends. If this head eats Titus shields, the try ends. Here we increased a bit more the shields, a hit, 1 million, and this is going to keep escalating and escalating and escalating. Let's attack. Let's see if I can show you why. I'm not going to be able to show you, but we also have here this other head with the buff of the Serpent's Will, which I actually haven't tried. I'm not sure if we're also doing critical hit on these heads despite of the Serpent Will, because of Titus text that says that basically we're always going to be doing the strong hit, the critical hit. Let's attack this one here. I want to try the A2 with Brogni. I want to increase the size of the shields, because now the hit is going to be pretty strong. Another big chunk of shield there. Not yet. A1. Increase the size of the buffs. Now it's going to be a big hit, so you're going to be seeing a big chunk of shield increase by the Brogni's hit. You can see. Look at the shield that Mikage has right now. Pretty solid. We're going to keep increasing the duration. Again, the Head of Mischief. This is going to be very annoying. The ideal here would be to have nothing we can control, to have, well, I mean, Mad Hatter is amazing in this case, because he's able to apply the cursed debuff, so we're always going to be able to target it. But you can see if I attack A2, 6.1 million, we're starting to accumulate big shields. Yeah, now about time. Now you play this the Hex, so we're going to try to attack this head at all costs, because we need to get rid of this one. If this head eats our shield, we're done. But basically, this is a bit the dynamic. We just keep attacking, keep attacking, keep attacking, keep increasing the shields until infinitum. And essentially, I think Titus is, I mean, the idea behind Titus is that we have an actual champion that is going to fit in these infinite shield kind of setups. Good, at least it didn't go for me, so it's time to get rid of her. And I'll do this manual for a bit longer, just so to see how much can I finally accumulate. And I'll show you a couple of these crazy hits so you get an idea of what kind of setups we can do. But basically, Wixwell super necessary, and then Mad Hatter really good champion for these kind of setups, because it's going to help us deal with this, with the Head of Mischief. And Titus, of course, obviously, Brogni is going to be a very good partner, because it's also going to be helping boosting the damage. Which head do we want to get rid of? For example, let's try this. Let's try head with Serpent's Will, and we hit, and in this case prevents the damage. So since it prevents the damage, we're not going to be able to do anything, but the Poison Cloud, it does. We can pierce through Poison Cloud like butter. So like I said, I'm going to keep going for a bit longer. We're going to keep increasing the shields a bit more, and I'll be able to show you a live example of for how much Titus is going to be able to hit. And here's a final example. I've put quite a big amount of shields, and per hit, I mean, let's hit him with the A2. We can see here 8 point something million. We kill the rest of the heads. As long as all the rest of the heads have the Hex debuff, it's going to be super easy to killing all the heads at once constantly. So that's a bit the idea behind Titus. I mean, I think you can see that it's a kind of setup that works. It's not going to work always 100%, and of course the more stars ascended, and I'm not trying it with blessing, I'm not trying it with anything fancy, just Titus as it comes. If you have the rest of the champions that are going to work with him on the same setup, you probably are going to be able to again do this shield, infinite shield setups. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of videos coming up, a lot of different setups, how he's going to break the meta again, how he's going to be the contender of Tranda, and rightfully so, he's able to deal the damage scaling off shields same way as Corpulent Cadaver. However, he's not a rare, so chances are that the idea behind him is that he's a replacement, a void legendary replacement for Corpulent Cadaver. That's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll leave a recommended video down there. Let me know what you think of this guy in the comments, if he's gonna be nerfed, if he's too strong or not, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.